And my philosophy towards teaching and using Schoology is from the movie Robots, See a Need, Fill a Need, where using Schoology as a tool to help students learn, not in addition to engagement, but the primary purpose is to help them learn in a more meaningful way. So I am from the lovely Commonwealth of Massachusetts on the East Coast. I have a darling wife and 2 kids. I also have 2 dogs, and you may hear them in the background as I am outside on the porch right now. That's my summer office. So if you do hear them in the background, I do apologize. But they should be good. Live in a town south of Boston, about 15 miles south, the town of Sharon. And for fun, I love to garden. My family and I all box. I go every morning at 5:30. It's very therapeutic to hit something 5 days a week. And I also like to ski as well. And I haven't had an opportunity yet to go out to California skiing. As far west as I've gone is Utah. But I hope to hit California someday. My real job is Hebrew College. It's a small professional school outside of Boston. I wear 4 hats there. I'm the director of online learning, where I work with faculty on instructional design of their courses. About 90% of our courses are purely online, and the other 8 to 10% are a blended model. In addition to being the director of online learning, I am also the director of student support. So I work with students both who are online as well who come to campus who need accommodations and modifications. As a special needs is my background. I also teach for the Graduate School of Education on a couple of courses on special education. And I also run our Sunday school program. We have over 70 kids, middle schoolers, who come and learn various Jewish topics. Hebrew College itself is a professional school. It's a graduate school. We offer degrees in education, special education, Jewish studies. People can be ordained as rabbis. We have about 1,500 students currently worldwide across 5 continents. In my spare time, I'm also a consultant to these 2 companies that you see here. And that's also something that I enjoy doing, in addition to working for Schoology. So this is the agenda. It's where Will left off with you all. We're going to be focusing on groups and resources, along with how to adopt Schoology. Is this your first year using Schoology Enterprise? Have you used it before?
Our principals used it before, but we have not.
Okay. And you have the Enterprise version? Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm happy to show these 2 areas. To be frank, it's not going to take the whole time. So if there are questions or areas in Schoology that you would like me to review that either Will or Bill did, I am happy to do that. Or if there are other areas that you have questions about, I am happy to entertain them as well. So let's dig right in. And here is the access code to my course. Does everyone know how to access a course, how to gain entrance into a course?
Can you remind us quickly?
Absolutely. Yep, I hear the right answer. Yep. 2 points. Go right to courses, and then you're going to click on join. And then you're going to type in the access code. So I'm going to put the access code back up.
What was it?
F4SRN.
You put it in the chat box and just copy and paste it.
Yep, I can do that. Oh, somebody did say so now.
I didn't even think I could do that.
And then click that Schoology button that you were about to have. KB.
Yeah.
Oh, so I can't do, I just kind of, I closed my mic again.
Yes.
Yeah, I didn't bring mine. Well, maybe I did.
Are you guys good?
Find out.
Is everybody
Just one more minute.
Sure, no problem.
Almost. Almost.
I like the Alice in Wonderland, Jeff.
Okay, and then I'm gonna join for,
Courses, and then join.
I'll show you.
And then in the meeting, I pasted the code. You can copy
that
and
never
paste it.
popped up on my screen. What,
It's F4.
capital F?
It doesn't matter.
Okay. It's not the same.
SRN dash KV
KB,
F5S.
S. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, maybe now that's it.
You guys good over there?
Yeah, we're over there.
You guys good? Okay, we're ready.
Terrific. So I know that I heard some comments about the course design. As an instructional designer, I like to show off what Schoology can do in terms of its presentation, given that it's a visual learning aid, a visual and auditory learning tool. By no means should you expect to be, should the expectation be that you are starting to design courses like this. At the same time, it's not that difficult once you start to get the hang of it. So these are the different areas. You will have access to this course and all the materials that are in here. In addition, in the red folder in introduction, here is the link to the Google Slides for this presentation. And you will all have access to this course after this training. So what we're going to focus on is we're going to be looking at groups. So before I begin, are there any questions from your previous training regarding course development, materials development that you would like me to go over now before I start going into groups?
Nope, I think we're good.
Okay. Terrific. In addition, there is a discussion here. I will take types of cheese for 500. In there, if questions pop up that you would like me to tackle after the session, I'm happy to do that as well. And you can also use, I think most of you have access to the chat box from GoToMeeting. This area over here. So if there is a question and you want to pop it in there, I will be glancing over periodically and I can tackle questions there as well. So groups have very similar functions as courses. The main difference is they are not academic, meaning that they are not connected to your gradebook. You can't assign tests or assignments. They're really an area to focus on a particular subject. They could certainly be used for extracurricular activities if there was an art group, if you have an athletics department, and you've got teams. This is a place to post rosters. It can be a place to post videos of the games for students to review, for players to review. So groups do have a lot of similar functions as a course. Notice you can do an update. You can also have a discussion board. Very similar, just as a course, you have the ability as the admin to create a discussion. You also have access to resources, and this is where resources and groups intertwine, just as courses and resources intertwine. This is similar to your virtual file folder or hard drive, and this is where you can put any information that relates to your group in a particular area. that would only be accessible for people who are part of your group. So let's go over how to create a group, and this is going to be dependent on your admin roles, your permissions. Some schools give their teachers permission to create groups. Some schools do not. In addition, some high schools will give students permission to create a group. Most will not. A good practice would be to have some type of staff member be part of a group, even if it is a student-run group, such as student council, or if there's a glee club or something like that. But to create a group, simply click create. You want to name the group. You can put a description. There are different levels of privacy settings. Everyone means that anyone who is a Schoology, who is on Schoology, including parents, can access it. You can go all the way down to absolutely no one, that no one has access to the group. You may want to start that off as the beginning, and then depending on the role of the group, along with the culture of the particular school, you can then increase the openness of the group in terms of who can see information, who can see the discussion board. In terms of access, there are three options. You can invite people to a particular group, you can allow requests, and you can make it completely open. So for example, we'll create this group. Just so you can see the process. Notice, just like a course, there is an access code, and that's the access code. If I wanted to share it with you all, I would give you that access code. You would simply click join, just like you would with a course. Stick that code right in there. Whoops. Stick that code right in there and click join. So I'll show you what it looks like from the group that I already created. So under group options, that very similar to course options, you can edit the information and the privacy and group settings whenever you want, provided that you are the admin. So if teachers have admin rights, they can change it. This shows you the group privacy settings, that right now, the only people that can see anything that is part of a group are people within the group. It may be that you want to add that the entire school can see it, can see the group profile. So if other students want to join, they can. If you want them to also receive updates from the group, such as that there's a bake sale going on, you can have different privacy settings set. In terms of other settings, posting group updates, depending on the purpose of the group as well as the culture of the school, you can either have just the admins posting group updates, or you can have all members posting updates. So if it's more of a resource, so for example, if the entire English department, ELA department, wanted to have a group where they could share resources and post information, maybe that everyone that belongs to the ELA department can post an update. Whereas if it is more of an extracurricular activity, let's say a baseball team, it may just be that you want the group admin, you want the coaches to do the updates, but that people can comment on it. So if the coach wanted to say, we have an opportunity to play, I have no idea who your rival school is, but whoever it is, if you had an opportunity to play them, and the coach would say how many people are available, then the players could then say, could indicate whether or not they are available. Now notice, parents can only have a view access to their child's group Um, they can't participate. They can't um, input information. You can create parent groups. So if your PTO or PTA wanted to have a group, you could have parents participate in that. But typically, if there are kids in the group, they can only view it. They can't add anything or edit any information. So I see Jamie is writing, so if it's open to everyone, is there no access code? Great question. There is always an access code. It means that, and that's on Schoology's end. So that way, if there is an issue with that particular group or course, they can easily find it. And Jamie also asked, does access mean seeing posts or creating posts, adding content? So that really depends on the settings that you have with regard to creating updates, creating discussions, and creating resources. Any questions up until this point before I go into how to add people to a group?
Always invite?
I'm sorry?
You could put the code up on like a whiteboard in your classroom and have the students.
The question was, if there's always an access code, then isn't it always an invite?
No, because if it's open, and I'll show you an example. So for example, Schoology Educators, which is a public group, it has an access code, but you don't need it to access it, to enter the group. So you can make a group open in the school, but there will always be a code, so that way if there are issues with that particular group, more from an IT development end, like if there's a glitch, you can reach out to Schoology and share that code with them, and they can then access it.
Okay, cool.
All right. So to add people to your group, in part depends on the settings that you had set in terms of inviting people, or whether or not it's just going to be available to the community or to a particular class or grade. If I want to add members, it's very similar to adding students to a course, though most likely teachers do not add students to courses. That's done on the admin level. So if you are an admin of a group, you would just simply click add members, and then you can either click on people that you want to add. You can unclick them as well.
I'd like to know if you can sort the group, like by grade level or something like that when you're pointing them, because it's alphabetical currently.
In the list?
Yes,
And do we have all students or just ours?
I'm still loading. I'm not able
Yes,
to
you can.
type that in.
You want me to type that for
If
you?
you go to your course tab.
You can also add if you have connections. So that would be typically at the teacher level. If you have connections outside of Davis that you wanted to add, you can as well. But again, that would be on an admin level. That would also be something that you'd want to discuss in terms of protocol, adding people outside of Davis. If you were going to have like a guest speaker come to your group, so if there was a master spelunker that you wanted to invite to the group and have them do a Skype session or use a big blue button session, you can add them this way through connections. You can also notice that as soon as I was done clicking,
Yeah.
it automatically keeps the number that I was selected, and I can add members without an invite. In other words, I can just automatically add them if I wanted to, or if I uncheck that, it means that students would then would receive either an email or a notification that they would want to, that you're sending them an invitation to be part of the group. And then simply just click Add Members. And notice it says that the people that were added will remain pending until they accept your invitation. So sometimes you want to assign it for homework, that they have to. It's also a way to check to make sure that the communication system is working. It's also helpful for students to check out that they are being invited. So I can show you what it looks like from a student perspective. So Jamie, your question, students are available to just add our own students or all students at school. That's up to your admin in terms of which students you have access to. Typically, it's school dependent, meaning that an elementary school may have different protocols than a high school for developmental reasons.
I just got there.
I never arrived. I don't think of it.
Yay.
Our new Wi-Fi is so good. We'll enjoy it more than it's been suffered for so long.
Yeah, I remembered. Okay, so this is what, from a student view, this is what Schoology would look like. Have you seen this before? Were you shown this before? What a student view looks like?
Did we? I don't think so.
Okay. So again, this is also going to be set by your admin in terms of what they can and cannot see. So depending on, they will have they'll have their calendar here of assignments. They'll see what's overdue. They'll see what's upcoming. They can also see a group request, which I'll get to back in a second. Here are the recent activities. So theoretically, all these are other students from another class that Sophie is enrolled in. And she would then see the feed, very similar to Facebook. In addition, she could also email people, again, provided that that is something that you want students to be able to do. Again, that's set by your admin, and that's also something that the principals and whoever sets the culture of the school can make the decision about. Notice that it's not etched in stone. You can always change permissions. Student can also see grades and attendance. So this was a training that I did last week. So I am able to see, or Sophie is able to see, her scores on various assignments. She's got some work to do to start passing. The reason why it doesn't list any assignments in Davis is because she has not done any assignments in this course yet. Up here, just like you as a teacher have email capabilities, students also receive notifications. They also receive requests. So this is a request to join the spelunking group. In order for Sophie to be part of it, she has to accept it. So that may be something that you want to train students to do, that any type of request to join a group, that they have to go through Schoology in order to be part of it, as a way to help students start to acclimate toward using the software. Finally, these are just announcements or notifications. Oops. And just out of curiosity, are you a Google App School or Microsoft, or both?
What are we?
Both.
Both. Yeah.
Both. Okay. Okay. So you can also see, because we're going to click accept. She'll be able to then be part of the group, and you'll see that in a second. As a Google App School as well as Microsoft, there are ways to use the tools and integrate them nicely in Schoology. There are separate trainings on that, but again, if there's time, I'm happy to show you a little bit how that works. So let's look in groups.
Can I ask you,
Sure.
Ariel?
Yes.
What is the advantage of using the integrated apps as opposed to just linking them in like an assignment?
Great question. So
Like EdPub.
So there are 3 levels of sort of sharing documents, whether it's OneDrive or whether it's Google Docs. If you just share the link or you embed the document into a Schoology discussion board or assignment or a page, it means that the student can just view it at that particular point. So if you want them to have access to it, you then have to share the link with them then ask them to make a copy. The Google Apps and the OneDrive app will sort of do that process for you. It will allow you to automatically give a copy. It'll create and share a copy with each of your students, which is then editable. The students can then begin to work on the Google Doc, which includes the Microsoft Word. It includes Word documents. It includes Google Sheets or Excel. It includes PowerPoint or slides. And if you've connected a rubric or an assignment to it, if there's a grade attached to it, they click submit. You get a notification that the student has completed or submitted his or her work. You then can put comments and fill in the rubric right into the assignment, right into the Google Doc, right into the Microsoft Word doc, and then it automatically gets added to your Schoology gradebook. And if your SIS is connected to Schoology, then that grade is automatically entered into your SIS. And students can go back and forth through the Google Doc or through the Microsoft OneDrive app. So it adds a benefit of sharing the document. Chantal wants to know how to do that. I am happy to show you how to do that, Chantal, as soon as I officially finish with groups and resources. I got to get that done first, or else Schoology will be mad at me. So I will, but I am more than happy to show you how to do that. And I see Rob has asked, how do you delete a group that you made? I can also show you how to do that as well. So in this group, the Spelunking group, so Sophie is now part of it. Here she is. From a teacher's view, if I click refresh, so this is the teacher's view. There's Sophie. That's the student. By the way, this right here, Carson, that's Sophie's mom. So that way that shows the relationship. So in the group itself, I can add a discussion. I can also add resources. I will go over how to add resources or go over what resources are. But if I wanted to, so for example, here I've added a number of different resources in the Spelunking group. Once it loads, you will see that I've added links and videos. I've added a quote-unquote a to-do, an assignment, if you will. It's a Spelunking equipment check-in. Now, granted, I can't grade the assignment, but I can add it to a calendar. And if we're about to go on a Spelunking trip, if I want to make sure that all my members have their equipment, I can add this into a calendar. And to add from resources, I can create an assignment template, a test or quiz template, a discussion template. I can also copy from resources. So I apologize if I'm jumping a little bit, but I will go over how to do this in resources and go to any of my quote unquote resources, any of my files that I have, and add it to my resources here that would then be shared with every member of this group. So, oops, I thought I did. So there they are. Those are the two resources that I added. So if I were, so for example, you could have a middle school group where it could focus on something like rubrics or quizzes that I could then share with my colleagues. If I wanted to have it more specific and just have a math department group, I could do that as well and share information there. You can be part of as many groups as they want, and you will get notifications depending on the settings that both your admin has set for you originally, and you can also customize it. Jamie, the reason why some kids have crowns is that means that they are the king or queen of the group, meaning that they are the admins of that group. And you can have multiple admins of a group. And Rob, to show you how to edit or how to delete a group, if I go to edit group, I click on info. Oops, sorry. Oh, it used to be here. Sorry about that. If I go to groups and I click on see all, so I went to groups, click on see all. Oh, Rob, you figured it out? Okay. But for others who may want to know, if they create a group, you now have these groups. I can just delete it, and it's gone. Now, as teachers, you do have access to 20 million other Schoology users. So we're not talking about kiddos. We're talking about fellow teachers, admins, anyone that is using Schoology from an educational standpoint. So they are a wonderful resource if you have questions on how to use a particular feature in Schoology, if there are particular areas that you want to focus on in Schoology. So that way, if you are grading at 2 in the morning and you have a question about the gradebook, you may not want to wake your Schoology guru person at 2 in the morning, but you need the answer right away, otherwise you're not going to get a good night's sleep. So you could simply post your question in the Schoology educators group, and I have found that close to 99% of the time, you get a response within an hour at the very latest, usually sooner than that. So it's a great group to belong to. You can also see that there are other groups depending on your subject area. Foreign language, I think, should be differentiated depending on the type of foreign language that you're teaching. But you can see there are all these different types of groups that you can be part of. And then in your home feed, you will then receive a feed on what is going on in those groups. And if I wanted to ask a question, I can type my question in the post update, and then where it says post to, if I click the magnifying glass, I can then select what groups I want that question to go to. So I could send it to my school, I could send it to Schoology educators, I can even send it to people, to my courses if I wanted to. Once I've selected the group, I would just click post. Any questions up to this point about groups? Can you search in a group? Chantal, can you be a little more specific in terms of what you mean by search in a group? What exactly are you looking for? If you want to buy history lessons, yes. So, for example, in specific topics, yes. So, depending on the group, that information would be located in resources. That's where the information or that type of whether you're looking for a quiz or you're looking for lesson plans, specific topics, it would be in the resource. The person who is administering the group has the ability to organize the groups, including files. You can create a folder, and you could put within the folder a particular topic area.
Just might have like a search right there. Yeah. Like Google.
And any information that would go in there would be located in that particular folder. We'll get to yes, so there are specific folders in other groups, and I'll show you how to search to find something more specific in just a few minutes. One of the areas that I wanted to focus on in terms of group settings before we move on to resources is the moderate. So similar to the discussion board, where you can require students to post before they see other posts, you can also decide that here the discussion board or the updates from the group rather, needs to be approved by the admin. So this is a way to make sure that nothing inappropriate is being posted. Again, this is dependent on your school's culture and standard operating procedures. I would say it's also age dependent. For younger kids, I would actually have that it should be approved to help students make sure that they aren't posting something inappropriately. Depending on the high school, it could also depend on the group. It could be group specific, depending on whether or not you want high schoolers to have their posts approved before posting. If there is an inappropriate post, you can always take it down, or you can always have Schoology take it down, and then decide on how you wish to proceed from there, both from a learning opportunity about a student posting something online, as we are educating students how to be internet savvy, as well as any type of consequences that the school has with regard to the school handbook. Any last questions about groups before I move on to resources?
Nope, I think we're good.
Oh,
Okay.
can you leave a group once you join?
Oh, wait. Can you leave a group once you join?
Can you leave a group once you join? Yes, you can. So let's go back to spelunking. The only person that can't leave the group is the admin. You can't have a group just like you can't have a course without an admin. So there needs to be a designated admin in the group. But to remove someone, so if I wanted to remove Sophie, I can remove Sophie from that group. Depending on your school settings, students may or may not have permission to remove themselves from a group. That's something that your school needs to decide how they want to facilitate. By the way, it's also helpful within a course. You can also have groups that are connected. So if you wanted to have study groups, or if there were groups working on long-term projects, you can create groups that way. So students can share their information, you can share their resources within Schoology. Other questions before I move on?
Nope.
Okay, it's about 1:50. So before I enter into resources, would you like a 5-minute break to stretch, or do you want to jump into resources?
Stretch. Stretch, please.
You got it. So it is 1:48. We'll get back together at 1:53. I'm still on the chat, so if people have additional questions, I'm happy to answer by chat. But I will see you all at 1:53.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Hey, Lex. That's good. Good. I have a present. I know, right?
There's a lot of resources for science. Is there quite a bit for math?
I just joined the math and the Schoology educators group, which is actually why I wanted to know if I could leave it, because you were saying that you're going to get all that stuff on your feed. And if I'm getting like 50 things every hour from that, I don't want
Can
that.
you turn that off?
Well, I just asked him in the chat thing. So.
There's gotta be, let's see. Yeah, there's gotta be a way to turn that off. You know what, it could be in your account settings. Or like, under notifications. I put Schoology on my phone and I started getting alerts. Oh yeah, you can turn all the group stuff off. Off of email.
Okay, so where did you go? You went into
So I
notifications?
clicked on my name with the arrow by my name.
Okay.
I did notifications, and then it's down under group. I just turned it all off.
What if I want some from some group and I'm not?
I wonder if you could go into that group in a special way and turn it
But
off.
these are all emails. This isn't for the
Emails.
feed.
Oh, you're right. Right.
Yes, I definitely don't want an email that like, this is so and so in Iowa had a question about credit card.
Well, you know what, Dr. Mrs. So-and-so at 8 o'clock at night? Okay, that doesn't help, does it? Let's go back.
You said
I
you
just
wanted-
joined science, so let's see if we can figure it out. Oh yeah, at the bottom of the page in your group, it says leave this group.
Mhm.
You can leave when you want. Oh wait, no.
But if you're the administrator, can you leave? Isn't there supposed to be at least an administrator?
Okay, what did you say?
Oh, that's email notifications. There's at the top of your group on the right is a like an envelope that says notifications,
Mhm.
and it lets you.
So none of mine
Those are
checked, so
email.
I'm
None of
guessing-
mine are checked either. How do you?
That's email.
Maybe it doesn't automatically go in your feed. Maybe you actually have to click on the group and read the posts
Like, I remember
to actually participate. Because that would seem like a lot. You know, if you're gonna, you know, 5,000 people, you don't want that on your feed.
Good old fashioned days.
Yeah.
doesn't have to worry about how much.
No, I already have stuff from Schoology Etiquette.
So it's almost like you're trying to control too much. I feel like. I don't want
And I know
to do
that
this,
you're
I
doing
want to do
science.
this. Like, you guys just bring it along. Like, oh. Yeah.
He said he's gonna go over it.
All right. We're gonna be easy.
Did you ever get on, Amy? You look frustrated.
It didn't work. I mean, what I was on.
No, it's like I got on and it kept scrolling around and it never.
Yeah,
popped up.
I could see Christine's. Mine was probably.
I'm wondering if my computer's is slow, but it would never just send us volumes in.
Yeah, I think that it's maybe the bandwidth, or I don't know.
Right.
Half of it, because I'm watching with Alex, it wouldn't let me in either.
Yeah,
Oh, really?
and so then I was doing that for a while. I pressed refresh. Actually, I didn't have the option to refresh on this particular screen, so I just clicked Schoology again, and it just took me back to the homepage, and then it went back to my screensaver, and then now I'm not in anything. I'm in no group. The computer looks like it's off.
Mine's dark now.
It's dark. Yeah.
Hi, everyone. It's 1:53. Can you let me know when everyone's ready to begin? I can start up.
Not quite yet.
No worries. Do you want me to give you the answer to the test now?
Yeah, he's ready.
Yeah. Those of us sitting here will take the answer.
You got it.
Move away.
Keep it coming, Christine. Keep it coming, babe. I don't charge by the hour.
It's good because my therapy bill's through the roof already.
What did I send you there?
But this is what we call it.
Oh.
53 a.m.
Co-op therapy.
It is.
Maybe that needs to be on my schedule. You know, we were talking about how do we, where do we meet that self-care need? We need a co-op therapy hour.
You can use a group for that. Use a group for that.
I'm not sure I want it in writing.
I don't blame you.
You're not invited.
It's so good. It's so good. I'm like, how many of those were
Yeah, I
I have one, but I bet I can do like 3 or 4. And yes, it's fixed. No, it's fixed.
I watched Christine eating
My
celery and
bell peppers and
I said, I'm gonna go get a pepper.
Having that office is gonna be so much better for you.
Getting more
Supplies and like.
I want to get like a rack that I can put science stuff on. All my junk in there. I can put Amy to walk in to get the phosphorus. Oh, good. Nobody has to walk.
Are you ready to? You ready to tell them we're ready?
Hi, we are ready.
Okay.
Hey guys, mute your audio, Lori, please.
So, a couple of things before we jump into resources. One is, I'm not sure if either Will or Bill went over the Big Blue Button conference tool. That is a virtual classroom tool that is built in and part of your enterprise account. It allows you to hold classes virtually. So if you wanted to have a study group, or hold office hours outside of school if there was preparing for a final exam or something like that, or if there was a group that was working together and they wanted to be able to collaborate live, Big Blue Button allows for that. There is separate training for that in how to use it. Again, if there is extra time and if that is an interest of the group, I'm happy to show you how to do that. To add Big Blue Button to your group, your admin needs to add the app to the school and to allow it for courses and groups. And Jamie asked, could students who are absent watch the class via Big Blue Button? Yes, they can access it. The
Add it to what?
the membership that, or the subscription that Big Blue Button has with Enterprise version is that the video, you can record the session just like I'm doing, but the recording only lasts for 7 days. I did hear that they did increase it to 14 days, but I believe it's just 7. I'm going to double check on that. After that, the video goes away. So in some ways, it's an incentive for students to make sure that they watch it in a timely manner. If you do want the video to last for eternity, you can pay for an updated subscription with Big Blue Button, and they do it by institution-wide, and I can give you that information as well. But your admin needs to add it first to your courses and to your groups. The other piece is that because you are joining groups and you are getting classes, you may have noticed that your feed starts to get a little busy, and you will also get notifications by email. For some of us, we like to feel popular, so getting all those feeds and emails all the time makes us feel good. If you don't want to feel popular or you don't like people, you can click next to your name and click on notifications.
It was so close.
And here is both for academic, and there's also group settings as well. So anytime there is a course update posted, the setting is that you're going to get an email about it. If you don't want an email about it, you can keep it off. You will get a notification through the Schoology app, if you've downloaded the app, that there was a course update. You can also customize it, meaning that you can decide which courses you want to get an update. So for example, if I don't want to get an update from these two courses rather, I can just unselect it and click submit. If you really want to be popular, you can add notifications to your phone via text message, which I'm sure Jamie would love to get even more notifications.
She looks horrified, just so you know.
But so part of it is you can decide as a school, what you want and this is from depending on how Davis's culture works. If it's top down, if it's bottom up, if it's a combination, you can decide on what would be best practice for teachers with regard to communications and notifications. You can get a notification if there's someone comments on your post. You can also make it a combination that every teacher needs to receive a notification through email that there was a test or quiz submission. But as a teacher, as an individual, I can decide that I really want to know when anything happens in my course, so that way I get a notification. That's really more for if you're teaching online. So my students are from United States, Europe, and Asia. So I really, because I'm in different time zones, I want a notification that somebody has submitted something or somebody has asked a question, so that I can get that information. You can also get those notifications in groups. So if there's a group update posted, you can turn it off by email. In terms of getting your feed, that you can't turn off unless you not join that particular group. But in terms of getting email notifications, I can say I don't want email notifications, so I'm just going to select all, and that way I have nothing. I don't get any type of notification with regard to a group. School updates, I would recommend that stay on. Especially, what is your SIS, by the way? I forgot to ask you in the first half of the session.
Q.
Okay. And
Aqueous.
Aqueous. Okay. And do you use Aqueous to communicate with teachers and parents and students, or is it just for grade distribution?
Just grade distribution.
Okay. And what system do you use for communication?
Similar to Gmail, like right now.
Okay.
School Loop right now, but it's changing.
No, I'm not going to use Google.
Yeah. we're in transit. We're changing our plans.
Excellent. I personally like the 2 cups with a string method to communicate. I find that that's very useful. You may decide that Schoology is going to be your primary communication tool, and it's just a matter of training your stakeholders, the teachers, the students, parents, admins, that's what you want to use, and the go-to, so that way it's in one system. Or for a variety of reasons, there are schools that use multiple systems. They have their own network that they use, and Schoology as well. So it really is dependent on what you want to do, and then you want to just click Save Changes to save those notifications. Chantal, this is a way to get an email notification of a student who missed submitting an assignment by the due date. Not yet. That has been a very high request by Schoology. You will notice that in courses,
You'll get it.
you will see you will get notifications that but in specific assignments, who has submitted it and who has not. Students right now do not receive a notification that something is overdue. They don't get like an email, but they will see that something is overdue here on their main feed, that they have not submitted X, Y, and Z. But Schoology does know that this is something that we would like Schoology to do, that teachers would like Schoology to do, for it to automatically send a little yoo-hoo reminder that somebody has not submitted something or that a student has not submitted something. Okay, I am ready to jump into resources unless there are other questions.
Can I ask, can students get notifications via text as well, like, or on their smartphones?
Yes, so they can do it one of 2 ways. You can set it that a student can enter in his or her phone number. The double-edged sword to that is because students can see other students' profiles, they will be able to access that information, other students' phone numbers. So that's really a decision that Davis needs to make, whether or not they want that.
Okay. But,
okay.
Oh, okay.
But
so
the other way to do it is that they can do it through the app. If they download the Schoology app, I would recommend that over giving a student's phone number.
Okay, that makes sense.
Okay. But Jamie should post her phone number so that everyone can get it, so they can text her. Okay, so in resources, that's really your personal housing unit. The fancy word is CMS, or content management system. In resources, that's where you can put any bit of information, content, course creation material here. It's basically your quote unquote housing facility. Some people like to use it, and many schools do use it as a place to build your courses. I actually encourage schools to use both resources and to create a sandbox course or a dummy course for each of their instructors that's live, because the way the material or information or content looks in resources doesn't exactly look like it will in courses, and I'll show you what I mean in a second. Jamie, I will get to your question in a second. So in resources, you have different areas. You can, this is my personal resource, so anything that I want to create. So if I'm creating a new course, for example, I can simply open up a folder, title the course, click create, and it'll pop down in the bottom. If I click on that link, just like you would in a live course, you see there's nothing here. I can then start to add and create assignments or discussion boards. Now, the difference between creating an assignment in resources versus a live course is I don't have the date ability. I can't set the date, nor can I set the grading factor. I can't decide that the grading category. So I can't say that this assignment is considered homework or that this assignment is considered a group project. I can just put the content on there. So I can then type a description. Did Will or Bill, the other instructor, go over this little fun gadget, the insert content?
Yes.
Okay. So just like in a live discussion board or a live assignment, I can insert information from my Google Drive or my OneDrive app. So if I put here, this would be the file that students would see. I also have what Schoology likes to refer to as nerd freckles over here. So I can look at the code for those of you that are familiar with coding. You can actually see what it will look like, and if you want to change the width and height, you can. To go back to look at a nicer view, just click the top button, and then click submit. And there's my assignment. I can add it to a course. So this is where I would create materials, and then if my course became live, I could add it to a course, or I could add it to multiple courses. And then as soon as I do, I am then able to then set the points. I can set the due date. I can decide what category I want. If I have a rubric, I can decide what type of rubric I want to use. Make sure that the period is the same, and then enable submissions. And I can do that for each one. Now notice here, I can add it to a particular folder in my course. I can add it as a category. Now in this case, I don't have categories because I didn't set up my gradebook in the course that we're using right now. And then I can also use a rubric and click add, and it will add to it. In addition, I can share in public resources. Now, I'm not about to share this assignment in public resources because I don't want to get in trouble. But if I click that, it'll automatically be shared with anybody in Schoology, any teacher in Schoology, so all 20 million users. If I want to copy, so let's say I wanted to add in, let's say I was building my course in Schoology, in resources. Okay, and so here's a course that I built. Or I can click on this one. So what I would do is I would not just click on the folder. And notice it's all of a sudden the edit comes up and clicks add course, because that will just add the folder to it. And then you're going to have to take it all out of the folder and make them individual pieces. Instead, my recommendation is to click on the folder content. And then if I only want specific assignments, I can do that. Or if I want the whole kit and caboodle, I just click on that little box there, and everything is then checked. And then I can click copy to, or add to a course rather. And all the courses that I am an admin to, I can select. It'll ask me, are you sure you want to import all these things? I can then choose if I don't want to import this, I don't have to. For certain things, there'll be advanced options, like such as I can set the assignments here again if I want, or I can wait till it's imported. Then I click import, and everything has been added to that course. So I go over to courses. I think I added it to this one. Yep, so here are all the assignments that I added. So these were added before, and these are all the assignments and materials that I added from my resources to the live course. So just as a reminder, the assignment in a live course looks different than creating an assignment in resources. Kathy, what is the benefit of creating a course in resources? So the benefit is that this is your personal, especially in the home resources, this is your personal sandbox. No one else, including your admins, can access it. Now, granted, all your admin has to do is just change your username and password, and they can then access it. But if you really just want a place where you want to build, or you see something that you want to add into it, you can. And if your school decides not to create a sandbox or a dummy live course for your teachers, this is the next best thing. I will tell you at Hebrew College right now, the current standard operating procedure is that teachers create the materials and resources. I'm trying to change that so that way every teacher has a live dummy course, because it's helpful to actually see what the materials look like in a live course versus resources, because it doesn't look exactly the same. In addition, did Will talk about learning objectives at all?
One of the things is if you just make it in your live course, it's gonna get archived and go away. Like you can still go back.
I don't think you did.
Okay, so if you have, do you follow the Common Core, or do you have California state standards?
The other thing
Right?
about resources is like maybe you're
Yeah, Common Core.
every week.
Okay, Common Core.
Journal.
So in Common Core, if you wanted to add learning objectives, if you wanted to put a learning objective to a particular assignment, you can then select from those that are Common Core already, select the objective that you want, and you can add a learning objective. Now, the reason why you may want to add it to your resources is this is an actual place where you can create your own learning objectives. Oops. So in addition to Common Core, if the language arts department had their own learning objectives that they wanted to create, you could create it here. Or if I had it for my particular course, I could create it here. Put the learning objective. And click create. A couple of questions that pop up. Can you search for resources by learning objective? Oh, what a great question. I don't believe you can. We can try it in public, but I don't think that that's a criteria, but we'll check. Great question. Should you create rubrics in resources? You can. I think that way you can then copy it over, Chantal, into any course that you want. But you can also create resources in your grading area, in your course as well. And then if you want, once the course is archived, you can copy it into, or it doesn't have to necessarily be archived. It can be archived or live, but you can copy the grade setup from one course to another. If in the other pieces that I heard somebody saying is that sometimes courses are archived and then you can't really play with it. If you are the admin of your archived course, you can do some additional materials. You can add materials to the archived course. It's not exactly etched in stone. But more importantly, for a dummy course or a sandbox course, you want to set that there is no end date. So that way you're constantly being able to play with it. So then Chantal asks, making something in resources easier access than just in a course. It's easier access in that you can copy it to or add it to other courses. You can also share the resource with a group. So that's where the group piece comes into play. Or you could add it to the school as well. So for example, here is my group resource, Spelunking. So over the summer, if I'm in charge of the Spelunking group and I want to build some resources, I can add a file, I can add a link. I can also add badges. I'm not sure if your school district uses badges or just the elementary and middle school uses badges. But if I wanted to create a badge, I could. And then everyone in the Spelunking group would then be able to earn it or use it if they were admins. Okay. There we go. And so now everyone in that Spelunking group will have access to it or receive it if they're a student. And if I wanted to, again, share that publicly, it gives me what I want to title it, the public information that I want to share with the rest of the world. I can decide what level. So this goes back to how do you find specific resources that are grade appropriate or subject appropriate. If you are uploading materials to the public, you want to make it as specific and as informative as possible. So I would put this as a game, or I would actually put it as other. And I could put it as differentiation if I wanted. I can do enrichment. I can make public. And now that's considered public. That means anyone can access it. I can also create school resources. So for example, if there's back to school night and you wanted to share, the principal wanted to share information about back to school night, the top 10 best practices on how to make it a successful back to school night. You could add the resource, he or she could add the resources there in Margolis schools. And so only people in that school would have access to it. Only teachers would have access to that. Questions on personal or group before we jump into the public. Lori asks, can you use Google Drive in place of resources? there's no reason why you can't, Lori. The benefit is if you're creating materials in resources, then it's one less step, and you have it in your resource file. But you could also create it in Google Drive or Microsoft OneDrive. It's really up to you. The only caveat I will say is many schools in teacher contracts have a clause that say that whatever is created by the teacher is jointly owned by the school and the teacher. So this is a way for teachers to upload that material so that way the school has access to it. Some schools actually say any material that is created is co-owned by the teacher and school until the teacher leaves, in which case the teacher gives up his or her right to it. And so having it again in resources prevents any type of misunderstanding that the teacher has to upload it there and not walk away, and that the school has access to it so they could give it to the teacher replacement or have it in their resources for further use. Other questions?
I think we're good.
Okay. So let's look at. Is there a question?
No.
Oh, Rob changed his mind.
Sorry.
No worries. So in public resources, so this is whatever people put up. Schoology's philosophy, it is one of the most open platforms. So it is willing to play with other software. That's one of its creeds. That if there's another third-party app out there, like Google Apps, it will play nicely with it to allow students access to it. So similarly, they try and have that philosophy with the teachers, with the users. So let's say I was looking for a particular item. I can click the magnifying glass. I can also search by broad topic.
Our entire.
I can search by subject to narrow it down. So some people have uploaded all their lesson plans. Some people have just shared a worksheet. I can go further.
This might end up being huge for you guys.
I can also add a range to it. What type of file or folder is it? And I can also decide how I want to see it. Once I find what I'm looking for, clicking that plus sign has added it to my personal folder, my personal resource. So if I go back to personal resources, scroll down to the bottom, it'll be on downloads. Sorry. So if I go back to my personal resources, it'll be on downloads. There's the Algebra 1 course that I just copied. I can add it to a course. I can also move it if I wanted to move it to my home resources, I could do that. Or I could keep it in downloads. Once I move it to my personal resource or my home resource, I then can access it. So now it's gone from my downloads. Go to home. And here is the folder that I added from public resources. You can, just as I showed you how to add materials, you can add materials. Again, you will find in the feed when you belong to Schoology educators that people are willing to share just about anything that they create to help out other educators. They know it's a give and take process. So you can feel free to share what you want. Again, that's dependent on, in part, because of what the school culture is. So if there is a strict content sharing policy in teachers' contracts, this may want to be revisited, not whether to change it or whether to keep it the same, and then just inform teachers that you don't want to share, you're not allowed to share the information on the public site. Jamie asked way back when how much content students have access to on the mobile app. Can they see all the resources and pages? They can see just about anything that you put on with a course or in a group. There are certain things that they will have difficulty seeing that may not, such as embeds, because the app is already an iframe or an embed, and you can't have an iframe on top of an iframe. But the mobile app is getting more robust, so you can access it. And a way around it is that they can go on their mobile phone and log into Schoology by clicking on their browser on their phone and log in that way, and they can see it that way. Other questions? I saw that there was one about badges, which I'll get to at the end of resources. But were there any other questions about resources itself?
Nope.
Okay. So just looking back at our agenda, we focused on groups, we focused on resources, and supporting Schoology adoption, so best practices, follow-up sessions, so on and so forth. I've been sort of mentioning those throughout our training together. I am happy to sort of list a couple more, but before that, I'm happy to answer the questions that were posted earlier in terms about badges, and there was one other, I believe, about Big Blue Button. So what would the group prefer? I'm happy to go over sort of best practices or to answer questions.
Yes, I want to hear about Big Blue Button. Actually, who it is.
Yeah.
Big Blue Button, sure. Okay. So we'll do Big Blue Button, and then I can do badges, and then if something else pops up, if there's time, we can do that. Is the Schoology admin person in the room right now?
Yes.
Yes. Woohoo! Do you know how to add an app to the school?
We already added it there, but
It's already there.
It's there. Look at that. Awesome. Okay. So in course, I'm going to jump back to courses, but you can also do it in groups as well. Big Blue Button is a virtual classroom. What's nice is that it is built in, so you don't have to use Skype or GoToMeeting or Google Hangout. The teacher controls, or the admin controls if it's a group, when and where somebody can use it. I would recommend, if you are going to facilitate a Big Blue Button, that you, as the admin, you start it 15 minutes before the actual start time, which you can because you're the admin. So let's make it, today is 22nd, and we'll do it at, I can add an end time. I don't need to. Just if I have an end time, it doesn't mean that the conference ends. The admin has to set that. The admin actually ends it. It's just for helping for scheduling purposes. So people can add it to their calendars and know that they need to save that time. So this is what happens. I just created a new conference. I simply create conference, title it, put a start time, and then click create. Notice it says not started. It says edit. I can edit if I want to change the time or date. I can also delete it. Students will now see this in their feed. They will start to see it in, make a duplicate, in their calendar. Oops. Did I choose the wrong one? I did. Sorry about that. Let me switch back to Betty White. Hold on. So my recommendation is once you've set the date when the Big Blue Button conference should take place, as the admin, I would go in anywhere from 10 to 15 minutes earlier, just to make sure that all the modules are set, meaning all both the audio and videos are working. If you need to upload materials or content, such as PowerPoints or documents that you want students to see, you can. You can have multiple conferences beginning from multiple teachers. So unlike certain accounts, you can have, only a number of accounts, or you can only have a certain number of concurring meetings. With Big Blue Button, you can have as many as you want occurring. The only caveat is the originator's bandwidth. So, for example, if you're at the school and you have 20 conferences happening at the same time, that's a lot of bandwidth that's going to be taken up. So if another teacher is streaming a video, another teacher is showing a podcast, it may gum up the system. Likewise, if you are home and you are initiating a Big Blue Button, your bandwidth is the one that determines its ability to be as sharp as possible. So make sure that you have a decent bandwidth. So most people have either cable or DSL, and that's totally fine. You can have as many as 100 participants, provided that they aren't all using video. If you're having everyone use video, then my recommendation is anywhere from, I would say a max is probably 20 to 25 people. If I start the conference, it will go through this whole process of loading the modules. So this is why you want to leave plenty of time. Kind of reminds me of the old television sets that used to take days to turn on. So here is the main page. Now it's going to ask, how do you want to join the audio? So if you're running a training or a webinar, you only want people to listen, click listen only. If you're teaching or you're going to have a discussion group, you want to click microphone. Depending on your browser, it's going to add for an audio test. Okay, so clearly the audio is working because I hear myself. I'm going to click no. I can also test the speakers. I'm not going to do that because I don't want the feedback. So here are my options. It tells me the users. And as more people log in, you can see. Here is my main screen. I can also do a camera if I want.
The kids would log in and just hit
So now
and automatically.
you'll see this is what the camera setting looks like. I can start sharing it. So you'll have other participants sharing. So this is also good if you're holding a meeting outside of school. I am not sure, I'm putting on my special ed hat right now. If you are doing a team meeting, I am not sure if this actually counts. If a member of the team or a parent logs in through this feature, if it actually counts as a teacher, as a member being present. You will want to check the regulations in California. But if there is a way to do it, you certainly can. It's also, if you want to think about having, I don't know if you do parent-teacher conferences, but this is also an official way to do it versus just using a teacher's Google Hangout account because you can record it. You can post students' work up here. To do that, simply click this little plus sign over here. You can select the file. Notice that it likes PDFs the most, but it doesn't have to be. You can select any file. It'll open up information. You probably don't want to see a picture of my eye medication, so I'm not going to do that. There are also instructional videos for the moderator or the presenter. And you will also see that there are tools here that I can draw. I can also make shapes. I can also add a text. In addition, there's also a chat, very similar to the chat that we're using right now. Can I upload a document and draw on it? Yes, I can. Let me pick something. So now here's an image, but I can also upload a document. I can also draw on it. I can change the color so that way you can see it. I can also zoom in as well. I can also start a poll with the group. So if I wanted to ask, like, who's hungry? I can do a custom poll. I can also have the options of having a backroom chat. So if I just want to chat privately with a particular student, so for example, if I notice that a student is not participating, I can do a private chat with that person and say, is everything okay? In addition, I can share my screen. I can also record it as well. And then when I'm done, I log out. So before I log out, are there any questions? Can students communicate that way with each other as well? On the chat, no. As the admin, you are the only one that can do individual chats.
Oh my God. She's so stupid.
Your students would never do that. Other questions about Big Blue Button before I show you what happens with the log off? So once you log off or log out, so confirm whether you want to do it. And if you go back to the button, you'll notice that the conference hasn't ended. Even though I logged out, the conference has not ended. I need to end the conference. As the admin, I need to end it. Otherwise, it's going to keep going and going and going. I click end. Now, if I had, it'll show me the completed conference. This is when it started. Now, if I had clicked record, depending on the length of the session, it will take anywhere from a few minutes to about an hour to process, and then it'll be available here. And you can then embed it directly into an update, or you can just tell students, go to the Big Blue Button conference area, click on completed, and click on the recording, and then it'll automatically run. Questions? Okay. So Jamie asked about badges. Badges are part of the gamification phenomena with regard to teaching and learning, that it is helpful for students of all ages to know that they've earned something. So for example, I will show you on, I'll do it on this one. So in addition to being a Schoology trainer, I'm also an ambassador. So it will show up what I've completed. So in order for me to be a trainer, if I go to my profile, it'll show me the badges that I have earned. So in order for me to be a trainer, I had to earn certain badges. And I can click on it. It can show me that I attended a meeting. It's just, for younger kids, it can be used as part of their portfolio. So depending on the types of badges that you create, either as a school or you can have it as just as your classroom. Okay. So I haven't added any badges. These are some that automatically come with each course. You successfully completed and submitted your homework. So as a way to help students become acclimated with using Schoology, especially for the younger kids where if you're going to use it K to 2, and Schoology is quite aware of this, and they're working on to make it more developmentally appropriate for K to 2. Obviously there are a lot of words here. It's a very, even though it's a visual system, it's still language based. So it may be helpful to create an icon, and you can assign it to the student. Oops. And so I can add it as a badge, and then I can simply check it. Let's check Sophie, because I have access to Sophie's account. So this is Sophie's personal page. And here's the homework badge. So it's a way for her, as well as her parents, as well as her team, to say, okay, she's earned the homework badge. It's good for parent-teacher conferences to say these are the areas that Sophie is excelling in. Here are some areas that she needs to focus on. So it's part of the, again, it's part of the culture of Davis. It can also be part of the culture of your own classroom, provided that you are allowed to use badges, which most teachers are. You can easily implement them in your classroom. Questions about badges?
Nope, we're good.
Okay. So now Chantal would like me to show how to do a Google Drive assignment. You got it. Let's go into so the Google app integration can be added to not just assignments, but also discussion boards, tests and quizzes, pages, as well as actual assignments. So I'll show it from an assignment. So you would type in the name here. And this here, assigned from app. So this is an app that needs to be downloaded and installed by your admin. But what this will do is it allows me to access any item in my Google Drive. So obviously, the first time you use it, you're going to have to connect your Google Drive. So that way Schoology and Google talk to each other.
It's already downloaded as an app for you guys.
What? I'm sorry?
Oh, I already downloaded it as an app for them.
Oh, awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
It'll ask for permission. Just say yes. We've already given our lives over to Google, so one thing more doesn't matter. And you can then decide on what type of document. Now notice there are certain things that are shadowed. Those cannot be shared through the Google Drive assignment, because what the Google Drive assignment does, and the same thing is true for the OneDrive, the Microsoft OneDrive, it will make a copy of it for everyone in your class. So I'm going to make a copy of my vacation hour request, and I click attach. So it says right here, this will create a copy of your file for each student. Any student that is in your class will now have access to it. Now here's the rub. If you're using Google Drive, it means that they need to have a Google Drive account. Likewise, if you're using Microsoft OneDrive, they need to have access to Microsoft Word. I can put the due date, assign a category. Did Will go over all these different options below?
Yes.
Okay. And then click create. Now, what will happen
If you want to do a PDF, you just attach the PDF.
Lightsaber 101 assignment, just as I built it. But the difference is that everyone in the class has a copy of it. Okay? And the way that I know that is if I go to, here's the assignment.
Yeah.
Okay? I can see who's working on it. It looks like Patty has not opened this assignment yet.
You can see their edits as they go.
Can you see their edits as you click down the people?
Yeah. So is somebody working on it? Somebody click on it?
Oh, I don't know if anybody has it open. We're just watching.
Hold on. I can do it. Hold on one sec.
It's convenient. You don't have to like look at all that one by one.
You can just preview, click through. That's good.
Okay, so here's the assignment. I click on my document.
Like give them a blank.
Obviously, I have to connect to my Google Drive. Blah 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 blah. So always make sure you plan this ahead of time. She does not have an email, so I can't do it. But what will happen is Sophie would enter in her email and password, and then what would happen, you could put on your imagination hat, she would then see the assignment, the Google Doc. She can then edit it. The way that I can then see it in progress. So the way that I know that it's also in, that every student has it, is that it made a copy of the assignment in my Google Drive. So I have two ways to access it. I can either access it through Schoology, which would be the preferable way. If for some reason Schoology is not working, I can see that everyone in my class will have received a copy of it because it makes a copy in my Google Drive.
So if you wanted to do like an essay, could you attach like a minimal template or something so that you would still have that same view in Schoology?
Yes, and then they would receive a copy of it, correct.
Okay.
Correct. But this way you own it and they own it.
Yep.
I guess it's probably in here. What's nice about it is that you can upload a graphic organizer, you can upload any Google Doc type document, and they will automatically receive a copy of it. See if I can find it. Where is the folder? Forgive me, I'm just trying to find the actual folder. Is it what is supposed? Oh, here it is. Schoology Google. There it is. Schoology Google Drive assessment. It automatically creates a folder. Can you guys see that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And oops. When I click on it, it opens up to the particular course. So what's nice is it automatically organizes it for you. So it's not folder files all over the place. Here's the assignment folder. Okay. So I see Jamie has already started, which is great. So I can either access Jamie's file here or in Schoology. Thank you, Jamie, for being a guinea pig. So where? Oh, you must have. Did you submit it? You submitted it. Okay. So this is what will pop up. In other words, once she hits submit, she can't edit it.
Oh.
The only way she can edit it is if I give her permission. If I say, I'm unsubmitting it because you have to do X, Y, and Z. But this is what I need all of next month off. Okay, so she added that to the original text. Okay, and hopefully your principal that's in the room will agree to it. Okay.
I get all of next month off.
Paid, right? Paid.
Paid with a
Double
bonus.
paid.
No, it's actually time and a half. But you can see that Jamie can view it. She has access to it, and I can access to it. Now, I can, because I didn't put points to it or I didn't add a rubric to it, I can't grade it. But if I had added a rubric to it or points to it, I could then grade it. She would then see the grade. I can also click unsubmit if I say, you know what, you can't have all next month off. I want you to redo it. And then she would have it again in progress.
Mm-hmm.
And I can see, because Jamie already activated it, I can see that now Jamie has access again. So this is, I sent it back. So now Jamie can edit it if she wants. Chantal, to answer your question, you can put a rubric on a discussion post. And you do not need, you are grading the original post with the discussion post rubric, and the comments are separate. So now Jamie is changing it, so I see that she changed it. I can see it live. So this is also helpful for me to, to view students working, whether in class or outside of class. Other questions? We are going to be launching new training on how to use these apps, so that way you'll have more opportunities to play with it. But here was just a little taste of it. It is 3:02. Technically, I'm supposed to end. I am happy to go over a little bit more if the group wants, or I'm happy to end it here.
I think we're good.
All right. This has been a blast. It's been a pleasure working with you all. If you have questions, feel free to email me, or you can put it something right in the chat in the discussion board. I'm happy to do that. The only thing I ask is that in the PowerPoint, the last slide, there's a survey that I ask you to fill out on how this presentation was, how I was as an instructor. I love receiving that feedback. Schoology receives that feedback. So if you just take a few moments to fill that out, I'd greatly appreciate it. And have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Take care.